Today we're going to be looking at instrumenting our Zool object so we can see what state Zool is in as we go through the program. We have 5 different Zool objects. Only 4 of those will actually be active in the game, except right at the beginning there's an object Zool. This is more like a parent class, and these are all the child classes. We're going to be adding a script, and I'm going to show you how to type that in. All right, so going back, we were writing our script. And so this is a switch statement. We're doing multi-way branching. So in the case where the state is set to Z state stand, we want to set our stir state equal to just the word stand. So this is a translation method. It translates from the numbers that represent the Z states, or the constants, into a string that we can use on the right on the screen. The other thing you need to do is say break, okay, for each one of these. And then you repeat this pattern for each different Z state. So the next one, I guess, is Z state walk. If you see it not change colors, then that tells you you typed something in wrong. And so on. I'll let you do the rest of them, but when you have a switch statement, you also want to do a catch-all kind of case. This is called the default case. So if the Z state isn't set to any of these values that we have in the cases, we want to show that on the user interface and tell them, hey, there's something bad going on here. You shouldn't have a Z state that's unrecognized. So what I do typically is I put in some kind of failure. So we'll be able to see that coming out of this function. Say break. And then once we've gone through this switch statement and it has the right string that represents the current Z state, then we just need to return it. So we say return stir state. So what that'll do is it will return the string that represents the Z state. Kind of neat. So you'll need to add more right here for the other Z states. If we look at the constants, I still haven't done climb and cling and slip and skid. You'll need to add those there as well. Over here in Object Zool, we can put in some smarts. So go to Object Zool now, inside the draw event. And inside this draw event, we want to first check to see if our state messages flag is set equal to 1. If that's turned on, that means we want to see the Z state messages. So we do this, and this is a little bit kind of strange. First you set the color that you want the text to be. I'm going to use white. And then we're going to need a font, and we haven't created a font yet. So let's do that. So create font, creating the font, and let's make it a little bit larger, maybe 18. Nah, that's too big. 16? Yeah, that looks pretty good. We'll go with that. So now that we have a font, we can use it here in the draw event. Now remember, in a draw event, you can only draw in a draw event. You can't draw anywhere else. So even though you might say draw someplace else, it's not going to do it. So we're going to set our font to font 1. And then we're going to have to do a little bit of code using GML. So I'm going to choose this off the control menu, execute code. And I'll say this. Basically, in GML you say draw, text, that one there. It takes an X and a Y and a string. So our X is going to be object Zool. Object Zool's X, because we're inside object Zool right now. Y, we're going to add 50 to Y so that this text appears below object Zool at its feet, and it will follow object Zool as he's jumping around. What do we want to draw? We want to draw the result of our script. So it sees the script. It doesn't have any parameters, but realize when you call a function or a script, you have to put the parentheses there, even though it doesn't take any parameters. And our hope is that that will draw the text right below object Zool's feet. Let's try it. Okay, so it doesn't know what state messages is in object Zool. It's action 2 of the draw event. That's here. Go to object Zool. I did call it state messages. Maybe I misspelled it. That looks right. Let me try it one more time and read the error a little bit more carefully. Okay, we'll call it something else. Z state messages in the create event, and then here, maybe there's a variable already called Z state messages. Let's try this. Let's try this one more time. As he's falling, I'm going to turn it on. See that? You saw it there for a second? Yeah. I'll try again. See it where it says fall? Problem is it's going behind the tile set. So we have to set the depth so that we can see it. We want it to be the last thing that gets drawn. The way we do that is we go into object, the other 4 object Zools, and set the depth to -1001, just to be sure that it gets drawn last. And you'll have to do this for each of the Zool objects. Okay. So go through those and make sure that the depth is set. It doesn't really matter what object Zool is, because it's typically never on the screen. I can turn the Z state on. See, I'm still in the walking state, so that tells me, oh, I'm not transitioning to the falling state when I go off the ledge. Okay? So that gives us a little bit of help when we're trying to figure out what state we're in. But we're still not complete. I also want to put on the screen what object Zool is at this point. And this is a little complicated, so you'll need to pay attention. The 2 we have is air and land, so I'm going to do land first. And in object Zool land, I'm going to actually add a draw event here as well. The problem with this, though, I'll show you what the problem is, I guess, instead of just describing it. We want to do that same bit of code. I'm going to copy that. Or actually here. No, here. instead of calling zState string, we actually want to put out a string that tells us which object we are. We're inside object Zool land, so I would say object land. Okay, something like that. So we know that he's an object land object. And we want to move it a little to the right. So we might say plus 60. There we go. Okay, so here are our Z. But notice that Zool disappeared on us. So did our state string. And the question is, well, why did that happen? All we did was add some more text. The problem is, as soon as you create a draw event on one of the childs of object Zool, it overrides the one on Zool. So this one on Zool, I can get Zool to open up. I guess it's here. This one never gets called because we overrode it at this level. So before we do this, we have to make sure to tell it specifically to call the parent event first and then do our little added stuff afterwards. Okay, so this is object Zool's draw event. All of that will get executed, and then it will switch over to this one and do this one. So now, if we've done it right, it mostly works. There'll be one problem. We'll fix that in a second. So I turn on the Z state. I can see I'm in standing state and object land state. So I know what object I am in, and I know what state I'm in. You can shut that on and off using the Z key, which is kind of nice. Okay. Why are we doing this? So it aids in debugging. You know where to look. Which object is having the problem? Well, you can look just to see what state it's in or what object it's in. Should be helpful to debug. And again, you can turn it on and off. So you'll need to add this to object Zool ice and wall once you're ready. Air, you'll need to add that code to as well. So this code here, this block, you would copy into here. So again, if you could instrument your code that way, now when we're having problems and we're trying to solve them, we can at least see which Zool we're talking about and what state Zool is in. So that's everything on instrumentation.